Welcome to the first ever Healthcare Entrepreneur Chat. I'm John Lynn, better known as @TechGuy on Twitter, and I have my co-host for the Healthcare Entrepreneur Chat, Melissa McCool, the best name on Twitter. I mean, what was your mother thinking? She gave you the coolest name in the whole world. Welcome, Melissa.
Thanks, John. Thanks to you, guy.
And we also have Per joining us from the beautiful Europe. I can't believe he's still awake. He wakes up at like 3 a.m. for Blabs, and he comes on Blabs at 6 p.m. Welcome, Per.
Thank you.
You're in Sweden, right?
Right.
Excellent. Well, I don't think we have a formal agenda today for this Healthcare Entrepreneur Chat, but, if I were to give the origin story of this chat, Melissa and I kept bouncing ideas off each other and saying, oh, that would make a good blab. Ooh, that would make a good blab. And then we'd talk about a new topic. Wait, we should be blabbing about that. And then little by little, we're like, hey, why don't we start a chat where we blab about it? And then Melissa had the genius idea. She said, what if it's an entrepreneur chat? Because really all of the things that we were talking about and saying we should blab about were really because we're entrepreneurs and we both work as healthcare entrepreneurs. So we said, let's chat about that and call it the Healthcare Entrepreneurs. So voila. Anything else you want to add, Melissa?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. We were talking a lot about some of the struggles that we were both having, and we realized that probably there are other people who are either entrepreneurs or who have ideas that they want to get out into the world and who are struggling to do that for different reasons or finding challenges. And so we thought it would be interesting if we could all kind of discuss it and pull our collective knowledge together to sort of help everyone move their ideas or their projects forward. So, yeah. So
excellent. Yeah. So, I think today there's no formal agenda. I think we just wanted to talk about, maybe we can get to know each other a bit, for people who don't know us, and we can also talk about, what are the topics we should cover in future healthcare entrepreneur chats. So, and also, maybe we could look at in the future, I think we'll bring on some other healthcare entrepreneurs, include them as well, interview them, or at least have discussions. So if anyone's joining, Charisse, I know you're there, so don't be shy. Feel free to hop on. We're friendly. Melissa only bites a little bit.
Or a lot.
It depends on what you prefer. Excellent.
We were talking before we actually started recording is we were discussing sleep. And I think sleep is an interesting topic that we could start with, because I know for me, I'm always trying to do a lot of different things. And if you have a family and children, and I know this happens a lot with female entrepreneurs, you end up sort of cutting something out. Something has to give. And for me, sleep is the one thing that inevitably suffers. And Per was saying that he thought it was possible to teach your body to live on 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night. And I'm very happy to hear that, because I've done that. But it does seem to affect your ability to process information. You don't remember things as well. So I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there. If anybody else on the call, or Per or John, if you guys have noticed that sleep is one of the things that you've decided to neglect because you're pursuing your projects, because there aren't enough hours in the day.
I take that same stance. When I was building my company, everyone's like, how do you do that? And the answer was I slept less than my wife. And ironically, though, I'm still getting, 6 to 8 hours every night. So I'm not extremely sleep deprived like Per likes to do. But, I definitely, I would sleep 6 to 8. My wife might sleep, 10 or 8 to 10. And so I had those extra hours where the kids were asleep and where she was asleep to get my work done. I chose to do it in the 8 to midnight time frame, or 10 to midnight time frame, whereas Melissa likes to wake up at 3 a.m. or something, But what I found, there's this interesting experience I had. So I went on a mission for my church, and when I came back, I must have been 21 years old, right? And I came back and I had this job where I worked 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. And so basically that just meant I had no life, right? Because working 2 to 10 p.m., everyone else is working during the day. I get home at 10 p.m., you know, there's nothing to do. So I would work 2 to 10 p.m. I'd get home at 11, 10:30, 11. I'd start watching some movies and then I'd just sleep. And whenever I felt like waking up, or I should say whenever my body felt like waking up, I would wake up. And so that usually was, you know, 11, 12 o'clock, you know, so I was getting massive amounts of sleep. And so my body was extremely well rested. Now I tell you this story because one of these days I had an event that was starting at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, oh goodness, I've been staying up watching movies till 2 a.m. How am I going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning? Well, I said, oh, forget it. I'm just going to do it anyways. And I went to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was extremely surprised to find it wasn't a problem at all. And I thought about it. I was like, why was I able to wake up at 5 a.m. with no issues? And as I thought about it, it's because over the past couple months before that, I was so extremely well rested that one night of not having enough sleep was a non-issue, right? Like it was, you know, I described, so I mean, my conclusion from this story, because I guess I'm a storyteller. So, you know, my conclusion was that to me, sleep is like a bank, and you can withdraw from that bank. But if you don't refill it with naps, if you don't catch up sometime on the weekend or something, then, you know, you go into a debt and you start paying the price, right? But, you know, if you build up the bank and you have sleep, so before HIMSS, if you build up that bank and you get a lot of sleep, and then at HIMSS you don't because you're an entrepreneur and you're staying out late at the different events and you're networking and then you're up early for conferences, that's not an issue. But if you were sleep deprived going into that, it would be an issue. So what do you think?
What if you've been sleep deprived for years, for like 2 or 3 years? See, then do you ever have a chance to catch up? And is it possible to oversleep? Because I think you can. I think you can oversleep. Like, I'm actually surprised that you weren't tired at 5, because I think you can paradoxically make yourself more tired with sleep. So anyway, Para, I don't know what you think, but.
Well, I think that's a good idea to sleep more on the weekend. When I all these years wrote the books that I've written, so I worked hard in the week, and I didn't sleep that much, 5 or 6 hours per night. But in the weekend, I slept more. At least one night, I slept as long as I wanted to, without having any agenda that I had to wake up to, and that worked fine with me. So I could work all through the day and also in the evening, and that worked fine.
Okay. And Para's written 5 volumes, right?
Right. No, 4. Only 4.
Only 4.
Only 4.
About 5,000 pages worth of.
Yeah. No, it's only 1,700.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the challenge, though, is that, you know, if you have been sleep deprived that long, then you probably do get negligible benefit from sleep.
You get sick if you don't sleep like you should. You get ill. Yeah. Something happens to you. Like one time I got pneumonia, and I think that's because I didn't sleep like I should have. So
it catches up to you. I mean, it's kind of like debt, right? I mean, if you get behind in debt, if you make a $5 payment, it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, so the body says it's enough. You have to rest, and then you get sick, so you have to rest. So it's a balance in the body, I think.
Yeah.
So what's the message for entrepreneurs? Sleep more, sleep less?
I would say sleep less. I think sleep, well, actually, I don't know if it's sleep more or less. It's probably individual. But I do think that you can brainwash yourself into believing that you need less sleep. I mean, you do get to a place where you will just fall asleep. I once fell asleep when I was leading a conference call with about 65 people on the call. I'm not kidding. I was so tired, and someone was going on and on about a case.
That's really dangerous when they just blah blah like that.
They were black.
That's really tiresome.
They were
when
going
on about nothing.
I thought you were blaming her, saying that was really dangerous of you to be so tired that you fell asleep when someone's talking to you.
No, but it was a conference call. I mean, it was a call, so no one knew I was sleeping. But then finally someone said, Melissa, what do you think? And I said, no, well, what do you guys think? As I woke up, it was bad. But then I realized maybe I should sleep more. But I think you can tell yourself that you don't need that much, because a lot of problems, I think, come from when people aren't sleeping that much, and then they get worried that they're not sleeping that much. So you can cut down on
the vicious circle.
Anxiety. Yeah, you can decrease the anxiety by saying, you know what, I didn't sleep that much, but I'm going to be okay. It's no big deal. So I think the secondary anxiety actually causes more of a problem. So anyway,
you can be tired for different reasons. If you're an entrepreneur and things are going good, I don't think you don't get tired because it's so stimulating. But if it's a hard time, you're more tired because it's something emotional about it.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, that's the thing I found. I mean, last night I decided, I just played Frisbee. I came home about 10:30 at night. And, I decided to do some work because I was behind on some things. And once I start getting in that mode and the brain starts working and like churning through these ideas, like it's such a natural stimulant, right? The entrepreneur execution, I got to build something, I want to create something. It like stimulates you in a way that's just so interesting, right? Like where I might even be tired. I mean, I literally just played a couple hours of Frisbee. I had a long day, been up early, and yet I was just grinding away. Of course, once I finished work and I decided, okay, I'm done for the night, I went and turned on Netflix, and almost instantly I'm like falling asleep to the movie, right? Because I finally let my brain have a rest.
You were relaxing. I can identify with that. I'm very much writing my blog now, and even if it's in the middle or not, I have to stop myself because I get more and more energy writing because it's so interesting to go on working with that blog.
But
so
then
I have to really stop myself.
You guys
That's
should.
The beauty of entrepreneurship, though, right?
No, it's stimulating, but see, what's interesting is that you guys get it later in the day. See, that's what wakes me up at like 3 a.m, because before I go to bed at night, I start thinking of all the things that I want to do. And so that is actually the reason I think I don't need to sleep that much. So I'll go to bed at like 10 and I'll think of all these different things. And when you're drifting off to sleep, there's this hypnagogic state where your brain is really creative and kind of thinking of different ideas.
Right.
And then when I wake up, I'm like pumped to do whatever. And usually it's writing and it's dark outside, so I don't get distracted. And
it's quiet, yeah. And you have your own time.
Quiet, and I can just think. It's like my favorite time of day. So.
I mean, I think we get the same thing just on the other end, right? Yeah. It's quiet. It's
exactly
right. That's the main thing.
Is, how often do you wake up because you're excited about something you need to do, and how often do you wake up because you're scared or you're nervous? You're like, oh crap, I got to get this done, right? Like,
there's that fine line, you know. Who was it who said that? Oh, I know it. It was a famous psychotherapist who basically founded Gestalt therapy, who said that the difference between fear and excitement was the breath. So there's like there's not much difference between what you're talking about, which is you're excited versus you're nervous or anxious about it. And so he basically said that if you breathe into it, that's the difference. That's sort of between the two. So they're closely aligned.
I think it's excitement and fright are there at the same time.
For most entrepreneurs,
it's not either or. You're excited, but you're also stressed and nervous. You're not sure how it will work. And so when I do I have to meet a large group of people. I'm excited, but I'm also a bit stressed about it, and I think that's a good thing. So you really have all the energy with you. If the Friday is not too strong, it's a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and I have an interesting challenge. If I'm working because I'm scared, it's kind of drudgery in many respects, right? It's not as exciting to work on. But if I'm working because I'm excited, because some of the project,
right.
has.
But it's like an actor going on stage. You're stressed before you're on stage, but when you're on stage, it's gone because you're there. And what you said, Melissa, you were there here and now. It's before you can feel stressed, but when you're doing things, you're not stressed.
But that's actually my favorite feeling, right? So if I'm working and I'm stressed about something and I execute it and I just kind of like kick the crap out of whatever I was working on, like I just knock it out at the end, that feeling, that emotion,
right.
the excitement of, I just nailed that. And I don't have to do that again or whatever. Like, it's such a beautiful emotion, right? It's kind of like, for the programmers out there, I'm a tech guy by background. It's when you solve this hard technical problem that you thought you couldn't fix and you worked on for 2 days. When you finally finish it, you're like, yeah. And it's the same with like an entrepreneurial problem, right? It has the same kind of satisfaction of solving a challenging problem, and it's such a beautiful emotion.
But I don't know if it's an emotion or if actually you probably get a surge of dopamine. I mean,
probably.
I think
adrenaline.
Well, it's many things at the same time. That's a chemical level, but that's also a cognitive level to it. So it all fits because it was stressed before. It's a stronger feeling when you really have accomplished something.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
So Charisse brought up something interesting, I think we should talk about too. She said, I tend to have periods when I work around the clock with providers. I find myself not being able to choose words wisely when sleep deprived. Have you ever had that where you were just so sleep deprived that you couldn't make a coherent sentence?
Yeah, I stop remembering things. Like I have almost word finding difficulty. And she's almost suggesting too that she becomes a little, well, she didn't say this. I guess I inferred this, that she becomes impulsive, that the words, she's less able to edit what comes out. And I think that's true. I mean, cognitively, it really just, it's not pretty. I think if you're really sleep deprived.
There's another side to that. I've tried 24 hours psychotherapy. You talk to someone for 24 hours at one time.
Are you kidding?
So you were the therapist, or you were the?
We were two that talked to a drug addict for 24 hours.
Wait, why? Were you interrogating him? Were you trying to torture him?
No, it was all voluntary. He really wanted some help. And the idea is when you're tired, you don't defend yourself that much. You're more honest and you open up more. And the interesting thing was I, as a therapist, also opened up much more. So I was really honest and said what I meant. I wasn't very therapeutic at the end of these 24 hours. So that's a positive thing about being tired. You're more, in a way, more focused and say what you really mean. And that could be a good thing in some situations.
Although we need our defenses. I mean, we don't want to turn this into, Clara's a therapist and I'm a therapist.
Yeah, but there could be a situation where it could be the other way around. If you open up more, you
make breakthroughs, that you're too defended, right? No, that's a good point.
But you could end up on TMZ if you're on the other side of things, right? If you might say something that makes you lose your job or other. It depends if you're in a safe environment.
In the short run, but that was perhaps an important thing that happened that opened up other opportunities for you. When you lost your job, you could do other things because you didn't dare do that before.
Yeah.
could also be.
Yeah, we saw the same thing though, right? Remember, Melissa, when you had your 3-hour blab, you said that the third hour was the best because kind of inhibitions and.
Well, you were there, but
Oh, that was why it was the best because I made it.
No, I didn't. Wait, did I say you? I said you were there. Per was there. We had a blast. Remember, by the third, it's funny because that 3-hour blab, what was really funny about it is that the first hour, everyone was really formal and
right, yeah.
And then by the last one, remember there was like I forget his name. There was a guy who jumped on, and we have a picture, and he's making these funny faces and laughing. It was hilarious. But it was kind of late at night too. But it was
it was almost too much.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic.
So what are you saying, Per? You're not going to do a 24-hour blab with Melissa and I?
It could be interesting. It could be interesting.
Could you imagine us after 24 hours of talking?
No, it would be fantastic.
I just did it once. I didn't like it that much because he was so very tired afterwards. So I almost slept for 24 hours after that.
But you're such a young man.
The therapist lost their defenses, but the drug addict didn't lose his. He was nothing happened. There didn't happen so many things with him, but the therapist, they really opened up.
That's so funny.
I think that's true for entrepreneurs, though. I mean, coming back a little bit, entrepreneurs, when they're working on a major, push for something, especially when you have partners, right? And you're in that state of kind of delirium because you haven't been sleeping as much and whatever, you really get to know each other. You get to know the true person because the inhibitions are, they're just not, there's nothing inhibiting you from just saying your true feelings, and you start saying stuff and you find out a lot about the person, because your true person shows in those moments of challenge. And I think it's because of the weariness, right?
Yeah,
but you know what? And it could be from weariness, but it also could be that when you get pushed to the edge like that. I mean, when you're trying to create something, and usually when people are entrepreneurs by definition, you're first starting something out, you don't have the resources. And so essentially it's like you're trying to climb a mountain and you don't have, you're barefoot and you don't have provisions and you don't have the materials you need, and you're trying to scale a mountain by yourself. So it really does, I think it brings out the good and the bad. And when you have a small team, you see people in a way that you wouldn't. And it can be very destabilizing. I know John and I have talked about that before, but I know the last 6 months for me, I consider myself a pretty emotionally stable person. I mean, okay, come on, I love it. Don't laugh. And I know I'm a drug addict from the 24 hours. I'm kidding. But I found that really what happened, though, is that it really kind of messes with your head a little bit because you're so invested in your baby. So whatever your project is, you love your baby and you don't like when people say your baby's ugly. It's upsetting.
Yeah.
So you brought up 3 new chats. One is, how do you deal with your baby being ugly? How do you get, advice?
How do you make your baby pretty?
Yeah, well, and how do you be honest with yourself about what, the reality? The second was imposter syndrome, right? That, certainly we're going to do probably a number of blabs on that, right? That you don't feel like you deserve whatever you're doing, and how everyone feels that way as entrepreneurs. And I just forgot the third one. I'll have to listen to the replay.
So the third one was about how destabilizing it can be emotionally. And actually, there's some research to suggest that entrepreneurs have higher levels of depression, rates of depression, and anxiety. But I don't know if it's because being an entrepreneur brings that out in everybody, or if it's the kind of people who are more likely to be entrepreneurs tend to be more mentally ill.
Yeah, well, it's natural on an existential level to have periods where you're more gloomy and you're insecure of yourself. You start out with a whole new thing, and it can take some time before you get a positive feedback. Like now I'm working with my American book for almost a year, and there isn't much happening.
Right.
But you have to always try to think positive, because when you think positive, you can get results.
I think that was the third one, actually, is having a support network, right? Whether it's internal to your company, whether it's...
but it's also an important thing with yourself. And I think these periods when you're more doubtful about yourself, it's a good thing, because you assemble more energy during those periods. For me, it's like that. And then I come back stronger than before.
You know,
so
what
I think it's a natural thing. It goes up and down like that.
It is a natural thing, but it's not real life. Like when you're at a 9-to-5 job, you don't have those ups and downs. And what I found interesting, I mean, you said you want to stay positive, but I think that I actually have found, for me, the most helpful thing is to, in the low moments, sometimes embrace the low moments and to sit with them rather than running from them.
Right. Because I think that's important.
When you sit with them, you can transcend them.
Because then you start to assemble energy when you go into that feeling. Then you can come out of it. If you try to flee away from it, it's harder to get away from it, because it
doesn't go away. Right. So that if the artificial sense of I need to be positive, but it's not real, it's artificial.
Well, if it's denial, that's right. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you do want to try to work with it. I'm not saying that I mean, generally I agree, as someone who's pretty optimistic, that you want to sort of look at it half full, not half empty. But when you literally only have this much water and your glass and you're like, oh my God, it's empty, rather than saying, no, it's full, it's full. Sometimes you need to say it's empty and it sucks, and just let yourself be sad and sort of grieve it a little bit. And I found that you can move through it.
But in those periods, there have been some research about entrepreneurs. And one thing is that you always try a new thing. Mm-hmm. I read about that. So in that period, for me, I think, what should I change? What should I try? Should I try something new?
Like something's not working in terms of your book. Like
So I decided I would start a blog. From the start, I didn't have any thoughts about that. So I started a blog, and then I get other ideas after that. So, but you have to have a period where you sit and think about things, and then try to go to find new ways, right. and still have your hope all the time.
Mm-hmm. Be careful starting a blog. That's a slippery slope, you know. No, but it's interesting. You know, I was thinking about your comments about depression and about entrepreneurship, and I think two things. One is, I think entrepreneurs often are some of the most optimistic people and some of the most pessimistic people, and it depends on the day or the moment you find them.
I think it depends on the moment.
Yeah, you know, in the same day that, you know, it's the roller coaster ride of entrepreneurship, of having, you know, these up moments where the most optimistic person, the company's going to just dominate the world, and then in that same day they'll have the down moment where they're like, we're going to fail, we're going to run out of money, and we're not going to do anything. And you know, I think that is one of the challenges that probably leads to the depression you talk about, Melissa, because you know, here's another sidebar on that same topic is I looked at getting insurance. I forget what it's called. Like if I lose my job, they would pay me, you know, money essentially. Which I was like, how do you lose your job when you own it yourself? And I'm not sure how that works exactly. But they said the number one reason why people collect this insurance is for depression. That they literally don't have the cognitive function to be able to perform the job, and so they cash in on the insurance, which pays them. It pays a lot of money, you know, essentially your salary. And I was like, wow, that's crazy to think about. One, that many people would reach that point where they'd say, I'm so bad that I can't function in my job. And two, it feels like an abuse to me of the system. I'm not sure, even if I was in that state, if I would ever admit that, that like, well, I need that.
And you know what's sad about that in a way, and then hi Samir, is that actually for depression, it's the opposite. So really kind of best demonstrated practices, if someone were to come see me or Per, we would not encourage them to kind of go into it. We would encourage them, sometimes you have to do the opposite when you're depressed. So anyway, we are talking about how actually broadly, how things, when things don't work out, whether it's a project or a business, or when things aren't going the way you would like, how it impacts you. So tell us a little bit about you, Samir. It looks like you're new on Blab, right?
Yes, I'm new in this website. I would like to know some information, and I would like to improve my skills in language.
Oh, good.
Where are you from, Samir?
What?
Where are you from?
From Tunisia.
Oh, cool.
Nice. Well, Blab is a great platform. I mean, that's what's amazing is that, we're literally around the world. You're in Tunisia, Per's in Sweden, I'm in Vegas, and Melissa's over in California. She's the Baywatch babe of the group, I guess.
Per wants that title.
Oh, sorry, Per. I forgot. I forgot Europe loves David Hasselhoff. So you're David Hasselhoff, Per.
No. I'm David. Okay.
I'm not sure you want to be him, but anyways,
you can't sing that good.
What do you do in Tunisia, Samir?
I'm learning engineering from informatics.
Nice.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, well, in this chat, we're really talking about healthcare entrepreneurship. So, there's a lot of informatics in healthcare. In fact, the biggest opportunities, I think, for healthcare entrepreneurs revolve around informatics. Even Melissa's company, at its core, it's about relationships with people, which is powerful. But, if you don't have the right data and to understand the person, that's a challenge, right?
Maybe.
Yeah. And also we're going more tech as well. I mean, it has to scale anything there has to be a technology component. So.
I'm in the first year of studying informatics. I'm not good in programmation, but I must be good to have a job.
Indeed. Well, that's one of the big challenges as an entrepreneur, I think. I don't know if Melissa's felt that, but I remember, well, it turns out every job I've had this, right? You feel like, do you have the skills to be able to do it?
Yes.
The number one lesson I learned is, from one of my first bosses I had out of college, she taught me the principle that, you don't have to know everything because you can learn anything that you need to.
Wait, say that again, John?
So let me tell the full story. So one day I was sitting there and I was hired to replace her essentially, or not replace her, but be a second her so that she could actually take a vacation day and not stress and things like that. So they actually hired me to do that. Well, one day someone came in with a problem and they said, hey, I need help with this. And I was like, geez, I have no idea how to do this. And so I went to my boss, who I was supposed to, do everything that she did. So I assumed she must know everything, right? And so, I falsely assumed that. And I went to her and I said, hey, how do you fix this? She looked at me, she's like, I don't know. And I looked at her, I'm like, wait. I don't think I said this out loud, but I thought, wait, I'm supposed to replace you. If you don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do this. What are we going to do? This is awful, right? And I think you face that as an entrepreneur a lot, this situation. You're like, how do I do this? And then she looked at me and she's like, John, it's all right. We'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. And so, she taught me this principle that you don't have to know everything, but it's amazing in this world today with technology the way it is, with what the internet's done, is you can learn pretty much anything, right? If you just take enough time and enough energy, you can figure it out. And I think that's a powerful lesson for entrepreneurs. I don't know how many entrepreneurs I come across that come up and say, oh, I want to build this. And I'm like, okay, well then do it. Oh, but I don't know how to, and then insert whatever, right? I don't know how to program. I don't know how to design this. I don't have connections with this. I don't. It's like, well, guess what? Most of us don't know how to do a lot of the things that we need to do.
Right. And well, I actually think that's one of the coolest things about being an entrepreneur is you end up having to do things that you wouldn't normally do, like learn to code or learn sales and marketing. I mean, the stuff that I've been doing in the last 3 or 4 months, I never would have thought I would be doing. You know, I mean, I could.
Can I know where are you from? Your country.
What country? I'm from California. I guess it's not really a country, but
it wants to be. But
it's as big as France.
I'm from the Republic of California.
Melissa from California.
Right, and John is from Nevada.
Yes, and where?
I'm from Sweden in Europe.
Yes, welcome.
Sweden in Europe, north of Sweden.
I know it. Well, you are welcome.
Thank you.
So,
thanks for joining us. I think we'll open it up and see if anyone else wants to join. If anyone else wants to hop on, you're welcome to join us.
How about Joe? Joe, actually, anybody here who or Resultant, would you like to jump on? Anybody here want to jump on? We're talking about healthcare entrepreneurs.
Yep. Did what's his name leave too?
Should I jump off also? So I'd like to say it's.
Well, we want to see, is there anybody who is either an entrepreneur or who has any thoughts on sort of healthcare, entrepreneurship and healthcare, who'd like to sort of maybe ask what you think would be some interesting topics for us to discuss, maybe in later sessions. What do you think about that, John? Because it would be interesting to sort of see what other people are in, want to discuss.
Yeah, Jimmy just joined us, and it looks like Resultant's listening in from while he's working, which is nice. Yeah, I mean, I think that is the challenge, right? I think there's so many topics to cover when it comes to entrepreneurship. So, I think we can talk forever, but hopefully that's what we do. I think we're going to try to do it every other week, right, Melissa?
Yeah, I think so. And I love I think giving these blabs sort of a theme. And I like the idea of Your Baby's Ugly. I mean, I think that would be a great title.
Ooh.
What do you think?
Your entrepreneur baby, your startup baby's ugly.
Your baby's ugly. And where do you go from that? What do you guys think? Does that sound?
That's good. I think that should be the next one.
Well, if you think like that, you shouldn't be an entrepreneur.
Why is that?
Well, if you don't like your child, how can you be a parent?
Oh no, you love your child, but other people don't.
Well, it's no problem. So.
Wait, what do you mean?
That's no problem.
It isn't.
Then you have a challenge to convince others that your child is a beautiful child.
But sometimes you have to come to the realization that we talked about earlier, that maybe your child isn't ugly to you, but other people don't want your child, meaning no one else wants to buy your child, then it's a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
well, it's the way that you raised your child. You, as a parent, you're the responsible adult that influences your child. So you have to change some things in your relationship with your child.
So if it's your product, how does that work? If it's a book or if
it's your relation to your baby, maybe you should think of.
Well, there is something about familial stuff, right? I mean, we've all seen the baby I posted to Facebook. They're like, "Isn't this just the cutest thing in the world?" And I have to just like resist every urge in my body to say, "No, maybe below average," you know, like. But you know, even though I feel that way, I'm grateful that as a parent, that person feels that way, right?
Right. That's true.
But I think it's different in a startup world, right? Because unlike children, where you can just throw them out if you don't like them, in the startup world you can, right? If you have a bad idea, sometimes the right thing is to shut it down and move on to something else.
Well, you can stop being a parent. So yeah. Hello.
So hi, Mo.
Being a startup parent.
Hi.
Hello.
I am Mohi from
Hi, Mohi. Where are you from?
Algeria.
Oh,
Algeria.
Algeria.
Yes.
Wow, welcome. Look at the map up there, John. Isn't that unbelievable?
I know, it's crazy.
Wait. I don't speak English good. Wait.
Ah, vous parlez français très bien?
No.
Non.
Ne parlez pas français bien.
Oh,
Oh, that sounded pretty good to me.
Un peu tombeau. We have a lot of languages here then.
Jimmy, look at that. Look at the map up there on the right. I mean, that's just unbelievable. So tell us about you. Are you an entrepreneur, or what do you do in Algeria?
Just I want to speak English good. Just that.
Oh, so you're just trying to learn English?
Yes.
Nice. You should download Duolingo. There's your best option. It teaches English. It's a good app for learning new languages.
But your English is better than my Arabic. Much
What?
better. Your English is better than my Arabic. I'm saying I'm giving you credit for speaking even a little English because I speak no Arabic.
You got to work on that.
Well, that's the true spirit for being an entrepreneur. You try new things. You're dare to do things. That's courageous of you to do this.
Yes, that's right.
I found there's two things you need, or the two things that really benefit you when learning a new language. One is a good vocabulary, especially when you're going Latin, any Latin languages. Because if you have a good vocabulary, there's often words that sound similar to another word, right? Like mangiare is to eat in Italian, and mangia almost sounds like you're eating something, right? So having that good vocabulary, and there's other better examples than that. And the second thing you need to learn a new language is you need to be afraid not to make a total fool of yourself, right? You need to be willing to hop on a blab and look like an idiot and say things wrong, and that's the best way to learn a new language. I think that's true in entrepreneurship too, right? You need to be not afraid to make a fool of yourself, because you're going to be put in situations where you have to, you have to be bigger than you are. You have to act like you really have something when you don't have nearly that, but you think you can execute. And I think that's an incredible quality to have, is not to be afraid to look like a fool.
So let me ask you guys. Oh, sorry, Para, go ahead.
No. They've done some research about entrepreneurs, and they just say that you're not afraid to do something wrong, and you always come back. You always learn something from that. All big entrepreneurs say that they learned a lot of things when they didn't succeed.
So,
the best entrepreneurs get excited, actually, I think, partially by it.
They get provoked, so they have to try again.
So let me ask you guys this. What is the thing that scares you the most? As it relates to your creative ventures or, being an entrepreneur?
What scares me the most? I don't know.
And is it a task? Because the one thing that I have found myself not liking and having to do more is prospecting and actually cold calling.
So is that what scares you, or that's just what you don't like doing?
Well, I guess is there a difference?
Yeah, for sure.
Probably, you think there is?
I think so. Because there's a lot of things I don't like to do, but they don't scare me.
But then,
doing the dishes.
I mean, I would say that it's both. I would say that it's a little scary, and so I'm trying to reframe it and look at it differently and learn about how to do it. So it scares me, and I don't like it. But I think I don't like it because it scares me.
I was gonna say, is that why it's do you not like it because it's scary, or do you not like it for something else?
Well, you know what I don't like about it, and I have to reframe it. I don't like the idea of calling someone. But see, now as I'm saying it, I realize that that's not the way to look at it, which is if you created something and you're trying to sell it or trying to get people to embrace the idea of it, I don't like the idea of calling somebody who didn't ask me to call them and pestering them. And already as I'm saying it, I realize the problem with it. Like I realize how you would flip it, which is they don't realize how this would help them and this is giving them an opportunity. I mean, I see it, and I also know that it's about relationships. So I'm kind of working on it a little bit, but that idea of calling someone with an agenda, I mean, I don't know. It's not, as a therapist, it's just not what I'm been trained to do, and it's not, my comfort zone is not there. So
it's interesting you say that.
I can identify with that also. That's not that easy to do that, and it's so far away from the therapist's role,
right?
In working. So it's you have, but if I find it's very important, I do it anyway. If there's another feeling stronger that it's very important that I do it, I'll do it.
Then I'll do it. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
So what were you going to say, John? What was interesting about it?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I've been lucky with my blog. People are like, how do you get advertisers? And, I've been lucky that, when you build a platform, they kind of come to you. But, at one point I was actually having I can't remember, lunch or dinner or something with essentially a competitor of mine. They had a blog, network and different, products like mine. And we were talking. She's like, oh yeah, you got to spend some of the time each day prospecting. And I was like, maybe I should start prospecting. Never thought about that. But it was like, I just had been so lucky, that, I built a different model where, they just came, right? And I think that was unique. And part of me has asked the question, right? Which I think Melissa and I have talked about this before. I think at healthcarescene.com, I ended up deciding, and it was somewhat of a deliberate choice. I almost changed this a few times, but I made the choice not to scale the business because that would require scaling people. But instead, I decided to scale the assets. So instead of hiring more people to go prospect and hiring salespeople to go out and find new sales, I just kept building assets that would help bring in more sales or that would make me more attractive. And no doubt there's a balance to that. I think when you're building a business, that's kind of the way I've approached it. Could I be, 5 times as big if I'd hired the right people and really grown it that way? Probably. Would I be as sane, or would I be in the depressive state that we talked about earlier? I don't know. That's the reason I chose not to. I love my family too much. I think, although you could make the argument hiring more people would give me more time. Although from my experience, people are the most expensive part of your time, managing people, unless you get the right ones, which is a topic unto its own, right? Getting the right people on the bus.
But maybe that's what your fear is.
For sure.
I don't like hiring people. The same reason as you say, because you take a risk. You don't know what kind of troubles you can get into. And in Sweden, it's very hard to fire someone. If you hire someone, you're stuck with them. If they get sick, you have to pay for them, and you can't get rid of them. And so it's a huge thing to hire someone. So I like it better working alone. So.
You do, yeah. Hi, Mark.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome, Mark.
Hey, thanks, Tech Guy. Hi. I should say this right off the bat. I'm not a healthcare professional at all. And I'm not a professional at all. So there's that.
Well, we aren't either. So
we're all professionals at something, right?
Well, I guess technically.
Might not be anything good. Well, are you an entrepreneur?
Well, sort of, yeah. I'm a radio host and a TV host in Jacksonville, Florida. But I've been a little entrepreneurial with my online endeavors, my social media and stuff like that. Snapchat. I have a Snapchat talk show. I have some Periscope shows, and most recently Blab. So it's been a lot of fun. But I like to troll around and see what other people are talking about, because every show is about Blab or social media. This had an interesting slant to it, so I thought I'd jump in.
That's our goal. My goal with Blabs is to have some Blabs that don't talk about how to blab.
Yeah.
About blabbing.
We both, it drives us crazy, because you'll be on a Blab and the first 40 minutes people are like, oh, I love Blab. I love Blab. How
should I use it?
Yeah. What?
Forget that. We talk about substantive topics. But I mean, we actually love that someone like you joins, because even though we're talking about healthcare entrepreneurship, and the challenges that entrepreneurs face span across all of them. So, I mean, I think, even though we are healthcare entrepreneurs, and, some of our chats, no doubt, in our future Blabs are going to be about specifics of healthcare and the challenges of healthcare. This is our first one, so we're just doing it as an intro. But a lot of the time, I think, Melissa, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to have a lot of non-healthcare people here, because there's so much learning that can come from cross-disciplinary collaboration, right? So
yeah. So tell us what you found, and what would be interesting topics for you if you knew that we were going to be talking every couple of weeks about the challenges of being an entrepreneur. What are some things you'd want to talk about?
That's a great question. The one thing, my big thing is publicity, being from media, being from radio and TV. And whenever I get, and also from Snapchat and other social media, everyone always asks me about publicity. How do I get free publicity? How do I get free advertising? They call me up. Can you shout me out? Can you get me on the air? And people are always looking for affordable ways to do that. I've been doing this for a long time. So, that's one thing people I've noticed always ask me from my side. And I've helped people do that. But I think anytime there's social media, whether it's a healthcare professional or anyone else, they immediately think, especially if they're entrepreneurial minded, how do I use this to make money? How does this affect my business? Should I use it? And what a lot of people don't realize is every time that flashy new toy comes along, and for Blab could be one of them, for a lot of folks, it's really beneficial. It's a good use of their time to network or to grow their business or to just, inform their audience and maybe make a lasting connection with a future prospect. But for a lot of folks, it's a waste of time that they could be concentrating on another part of their business. So another question I get from a lot of people is, what, do I need to Periscope, Blab, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, or can I pick one or the other? What's best for me? And with healthcare, because we have a lot of doctors on the air, we have a lot of plastic surgeons on the air. I find the more visually stimulating the platform, the better it is for them, especially plastic surgeons, if you get my meaning.
Yeah, it depends on the specialty, right?
Yeah.
This is a big niche.
Proctologists, maybe not, but
some people like that. I don't know. So, Mark, I have a question for you. We're kind of up against the clock. I don't know how long you want to go, Melissa, but the question I have for you, because you're a Snapchat guy, you're a Periscope guy, all platforms that disappear. And yet your radio show, which I guess, radio kind of disappeared as well, although these days it's recorded in podcast, right?
Right. Oh, sorry. What was your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, so the question, I mean, what do you think about the, I mean, in some ways it's an advantage, right? You're like, oh, good, I could say something, it kind of disappears. But, you know, what's your take on that, on using that versus some of the other forums, you know, Twitter and Facebook, which are a little, you know, more permanent, I guess you could say. A blog, for example, you know, which is search indexed by Google. And so, yeah, it's permanent, right?
I get this question a lot, but, you know, for me, Snapchat and Periscope, these ephemeral applications that just disappear, that wasn't, people get really ticked off about that. They want a record of what they've done. For me, my whole life on the radio, you're right. As soon as I say something, it's gone. You know, I mean, 10 seconds on the air, if you don't hear it, you've missed it. And that's why we play the same songs over and over again, just FYI. But Snapchat came along. I mean, it was perfectly formulated for me because they give you a 10-second limit. And most song intros are 10 seconds long, and they also disappear. So you've got to make an impression that lasts, and you've got to inform and entertain people in a very short time frame. And I think that's why I was, A, attracted to it, and B, somewhat successful from the get-go. But, you know, it gives people, I mean, it is good and bad. Sometimes you say something that you don't want a record of. But a lot of times you say something, and you know, if somebody misses it, they miss it. That's just incentive for them to watch. And you know, Snapchat, you've got 24 hours. Periscope, you've got 24 hours. You've got to tell your audience, whether it's via email or Twitter or whichever, or Facebook, hey, you better watch this because I give great information and it's entertaining as hell, but it's for a limited time. And I mean, what marketer doesn't use limited time in all of their marketing? Everybody does. So I think ephemeral disappearing social media is a real benefit and a real plus.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, these are actually good topics, Melissa, for a future one. I mean, as we kind of discussed doing a healthcare entrepreneur chat, we're like, it's amazing because there's, you know, we can talk about imposter syndrome and entrepreneur depression, but we can also talk about how do you market your business, how do you prospect, how do you, you know, how do you grow, what are the right marketing channels, you know, what are the, you know, how do you build a sales force, you know, how do you position your product? I mean, there's so many areas we can hit. And Mark gave some great insights there about, you know, the ephemerality of social media and using it to your advantage. Interesting.
So, Mark, would you ever want to come on the show?
I'm on the show right now.
So that's a yes.
Well, what I mean by that is no, because I have to sit and think about it because it's sort of interesting what you say, because I don't know why, for some reason. And you're absolutely right, John. Those would be very interesting topics as well, which people are always trying to figure out. So it's not just sort of, I think when John and I first started talking about what we would want to discuss, it was sort of more the kind of inner stuff going on, kind of on a like individual level. But actually, I think these big topics are also very interesting. So.
No, I'm free whenever you'd like. Sure, we can absolutely do that. I love Blab, and I love you know, sharing what I know. And I think you're right. I think what you guys have done, if I'm understanding, tapping into those inner entrepreneur, like how do I deal with depression is a great one. How do I get people to understand what the hell I do for a living? How do I keep day? I mean, my wife, I'll be sitting on the computer for hours and hours and hours after I'm off the air. She's like, "You've already been working on it. What are you doing?" And I tell her,
"Having fun."
Yeah. There are two ways you could use this show. Number one is to help entrepreneurs deal with those internal struggles, and also to help them, you know, build their business. I think you guys have tapped into something awesome here, especially with the healthcare angle, because I mean that's a huge niche, as I'm sure you guys know. But yes, definitely. To answer your question, sure, I'd love to come on.
Yeah, I mean, I want to hear about the radio stuff, right? I mean, like that's so fascinating to me. You know, and I've learned a lot from radio. I mean, even on these blabs, I mean, I often tell people, or even when I'm on the blabs or when I'm on a panel at a conference or something like that, I learn a lot from Colin Cowherd, right, the ESPN radio analyst. And he taught me a simple lesson. I didn't learn, I mean, I learned tons from him. But the thing he taught me best is that if you want something to stick in the minds of listeners, he didn't teach us, I just saw him exemplify it. He said, you repeat it twice.
Yeah.
So he'll say, you know, if in order to get people in the mind, you say it one way, and then you say it another way. If you repeat it, now they're going to remember that forever, and they're going to attribute it to you, which is a much more impactful thing, right? So if you're on a panel, if you say the same topic twice, then everyone's going to remember it, and they'll remember you much better than if you just say it once with some genius insight.
Right.
Yeah, we repeat things all the time, and if you turn on the radio, like I said, the reason we play the song over and over again is because then it becomes comfortable, and people, that's how you learn song lyrics. The reason you hear the commercials over and over again. We don't just sell one commercial. We sell 5 commercials a day for 2-3 weeks, because with that frequency, that's when the message gets through. So you're absolutely right. One time is never enough.
Right. Well, that's learning theory too. Like anytime you're trying to teach something. Hey, Chuck wants to say, he wanted us to announce that Periscope now autoplays in Twitter stream on an iOS mobile app. And thoughts on how Twitter and various video platforms will merge into mashups.
Did we tell him we're not taking any blob about blob and Periscope questions?
Well, I don't know.
No, but I mean, I think it's a big deal, right? I mean, essentially it's Twitter copying Facebook's model of, you know, where they're capturing all this video, and the integration makes total sense for Periscope to play right inside the Twitter stream. And they even have it as autoplay, which is a big deal because you're going to get autoplayed views, which is actually going to skew the numbers, which is great for advertisers.
Wait, so my God, you know what's funny? It wasn't until I started thinking about it. So Periscope plays in Twitter feeds.
That's the announcement that just came out.
Wow, that is cool.
They're rolling it out slowly. It's probably about a third of Twitter users right now because they don't want to overload the system. But what's happening
and
now?
It's only iOS.
And only iOS, that's right. As you scroll through your Twitter feed, if somebody's periscoping, it just starts playing. So eventually, if you even search hashtag Periscope, it'll be like flipping channels on your remote. As you scroll through your Twitter, it's just this show's on, now this show's on, now this show's on. And if you want to stop and watch, you stop and watch.
Is it like Vine where it does it muted or?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know. I've only been I've done like 3 or 4 Periscopes this morning to test it. And I've had people tell me, yeah, I see it. Yeah, you're rolling. But I haven't actually watched one myself. But that's a great question. But Vine is the perfect example. If you ever are on Twitter and you see those Vines automatically start rolling, that's exactly the way Periscope is now too. So it's really, I mean, Twitter, they're doing a good job competing.
I'm surprised you chose Snapchat over Vine. I mean, I think they're similar platforms, but I guess, you know, yeah. I've been intrigued by all of them.
Yeah, I read an article about these guys using Snapchat to make $100,000 a week. So that's why I downloaded Snapchat. I didn't read the Vine articles till much later.
Interesting. You know, my buddy runs a company called Influential Networks, which basically takes all these social media influencers on. They started with Twitter, but then they did some Instagram. And he was telling me the engagement on the Instagram stuff was so much higher than any of the other social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, anything else. It was incredible to see the difference. And I think it's because Instagram has been kept pure. I think the same is probably true with Snapchat, where, you know, the next generation doesn't even know what Twitter and Facebook is. That's for old people like us, you know, but they love Snapchat and they're using it like crazy.
I just read a statistic the other day that 65% of their users are using every day. That it's insane.
Oh, Snapchat?
What?
You mean Snapchat?
Yeah, Snapchat. And that's the main way I communicate with my 15-year-old daughter, by the way.
I was going to say, and I'm going to make up a stat that 75% of the reasons you use it is to get in touch with teens.
It's true. If I call my daughter, she never picks up. If I text her, it's like 50-50. But if I Snapchat her, she's like all over it. Yeah. And her friends think it's hilarious. Hey, by the way, I wanted to try out the Periscope. Chuck, I'm Periscoping this right now to see if it'll show up in the Twitter feed.
Chuck's going on Meta. You're going to Periscope our blab. See, yeah. Look what Melissa did. I think that means we have to end the chat. If you start talking about blabbing.
Or Periscoping about blabbing and Periscope. No, I don't. Yeah. It's too
Why don't I Snapchat you Periscoping our blab? Then we'll have everything covered.
I love it.
I think all healthcare entrepreneurs want to learn about that, so that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think they probably do. So we're going to Snapchat a Periscope blab.
Melissa, your Snapchat Melissa McCool as well, or is it something else?
I think, yeah, Melissa. I think Melissa XX McCool. I'm pretty sure it's the same. Are you on Blab? Cat Guy, are you on Blab?
Am I on Blab?
Yeah.
I'm on Blab, yeah.
No. I'm sorry, Snapchat. Remember when we said 3 hours?
I am on Snapchat. I don't use it that much. Like we said, I use it to reach out to some teens that I'm connected with at church and stuff. But to me, I have to, like, when I discover a new platform like Snapchat, I have to, like, force myself to, like, participate. And and so, like, I go in there and I just have to make jokes about me participating so I can learn the interface.
Right.
But
I'm going to jump off, but thank you guys for letting me crash your blab. This was fun.
Anytime. You're always welcome. I think we're going to do it every 2 weeks. I think we did the early one this time. I think we're going to do the late one in the future, right, Melissa? We'll do 9 a.m. and then 9 p.m. and then 9 a.m.
Right. We'll do something like that. Yeah. I mean, whatever everybody wants to do.
I mean, 9 p.m. is late for Melissa, but, she looks good late too.
Are you mocking me?
No.
Do it at 4 a.m. I was
going to say, I'm waiting for you to do the early one, and I won't make that.
4 a.m. too. Paris from Sweden. So
I'll do 4 a.m., but I'm staying up for it.
I'm always awake.
Nice meeting you guys.
See you, Mark. Thanks for joining.
So we will meet back in a couple weeks. Does that sound good?
Yep. We'll put it on the calendar, schedule it out. I think this was a good chat, a good baseline, and we have a lot of topics. So our next chat in 2 weeks is going to be on the topic of is your baby ugly?
And right? I see you tomorrow, Melissa, right?
No, hey, Liam wants to jump on really quick here before we we have
we can say hi to Liam.
Ireland.
Hey,
Hello
Melissa.
there, Dr. Farrell.
I was going to say, you need to use his proper title of respect.
I just want to check in.
Oh my God, your Irish accent's worse than mine. I didn't think that was possible.
That wasn't Irish. But
Farrell, how are you?
I just thought I'd just check in to say hello. Hope I make the next one now, but
I hope you make the next
I have
one.
almost no experience of being an entrepreneur now.
Sure,
the principles apply to most people in their jobs. You're an entrepreneur of your own life, right?
Everyone is an entrepreneur. So.
Anytime you're trying to start something, get stuff going.
Yep.
Look at all the props you're getting just by sitting there smiling.
Yeah.
I think being Irish. I think when you're Irish, you get like props just for no real reason.
Sounds good. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it. I mean, we've gone the hour. I think we should stick to about an hour.
Yeah,
glad we could add Liam at the end. Thanks, Per, for staying the whole time.
It was a good experience. So.
It's always good, Per.
Yep. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Okay, sounds good. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.